Wham! Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk. Intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
Hey, good Saturday afternoon. Welcome to the Drift Radio Show. And this is your host, Ed Bonderenka. Forget that Gary guy. He just doesn't show up for work anymore. We have HR looking for him to give it. No, actually, Gary is on assignment. Yes, he's doing some investigative journalism right now. Yes, he's investigating what are the best beaches, the best drinks are in southern Florida. He's doing quite the thorough investigation. Oh, and he asked me to tell you hi. So hello from Gary. So let's move on. In studio today, yes, I did mention my name. You know, I noticed last week I did not mention my name once the whole show, but that's okay.
Ed Bonderenka.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and with me, of course, is Al Gore. You can tell from the voice. It's Alex Wassell. Alex Wassell has been on before. You've heard him before. And actually, if you wanted to, you could be on. All you got to do is call in. That's 734-822-1600. I see the light flashing right now, and that means somebody, Joe from Wyandotte. Joe, hold on. We got some business to take care of. It's instantaneous telephone conversations popping up right away. So, first off, I want to talk to you about an advertiser in the Current newspaper. And I beg of you, support the advertisers of the Current newspaper. And that way they will continue to advertise, and I can continue to print the Current newspaper. And I'd like to tell you about, of course, Burroughs Roadhouse. Now, I've got to tell you, Burroughs Roadhouse, and we have told you before, is a wonderful environment. It's a historic venue. It used to be a retreat for the Burroughs employees. And Jim has done a wonderful job revamping it. They have great food. They have music on the patio every Thursday and through Saturday at 6 p.m. I mean, you just go out there and get your groove on, you know. Have some good food, close your eyes, listen to the music, relax, kind of chill out. I'm told, of course, by Gary that they have great drinks. They have a Sunday barbecue. That's 3 to 9 p.m., chicken, ribs, brisket, and sausage. Combo plate starting at $12.99. I mean, that's reasonable. And all you got to do is go to 5311 Brighton Road in Brighton or call 810-227-6000. And if all else fails, go to burrows-roadhouse.com. And if it really comes down to that, just Google Burroughs Roadhouse, huh? There you go. And so much for the commercial portion of our entertainment today. So we have a list of things we want to talk about. And then, of course, there's Joe, who always has what he wants to talk about. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but Joe takes precedence. When Joe wants to set the agenda, Joe gets to set the agenda. So, Derek, would you have Joe on for us, please?
Oh, I appreciate that, Ed.
Hands off. Hands off. I did not hang up on you.
You allow me that luxury.
That's fine. So, okay, I have an idea of what you want to talk about, but why don't you tell everybody else?
Yep. As you've seen on Facebook, and we kind of discussed, the Supreme Court pick. It needs to be Joan Larson from Michigan for very, very many reasons. First and foremost, she's very qualified. She was on the Michigan Supreme Court. She's currently on the 6th District Court, which means strategically she's been through the U.S. Senate confirmation process already, and Democrats would have a hard time making excuses why she shouldn't be promoted to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Beyond that, strategically, she's a female. We need a conservative female to counter the liberal activist females on the court.
Can we discuss that for a minute? Can you take a breath?
Sure.
Okay. I'm thinking, let's see, Sandra Day O'Connor. You know, I mean, listen, I am all up on Joan Larson, and when she was up for appeals court.
Yep.
When I was all about her getting that position. I am a little bit concerned, given given every female Scottish justice we have has been somewhat disappointing to us, to say the very least. There's a bit of a pattern there. Now, I'm not looking for any hostile phone calls. I'm just pointing out a fact. So what do you have to say to that?
Well, I can understand that concern, but I think she's had a pretty solid record. I'm more impressed with her Michigan Supreme Court time than the short time on Sixth Circuit as an originalist. So I believe in her. I trust her. I don't think she would turn out to be a Sandra Day O'Connor, but I understand your concern. And the other things is, we need to think strategic. And my understanding is not only is she on Trump's short list of 25, if the rumors are correct, she and another female are on Trump's final list of 6 currently for this pick. And strategically for the midterms, that would be very important. One, obviously, Michigan is a battleground state in these midterms with Debbie Stabenow. It would pressure her and Gary Peters to have to vote for her, as well as Democrats like Manchin and McCaskill, who are desperate for re-election. And those votes would be important because Larson is likely to be pro-life, which means Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska will oppose her, and because John McCain was a moron and didn't resign because of his health as he should have and would have been replaced, we only have 50. Losing Collins and Murkowski takes us down to 48, and Jeff Flake is being a moron and vindictive, his personal vendetta against Trump, saying he may even oppose. That takes us down to 47. We need 3 votes, with Pence being the tiebreaker.
And you think that Peters and Stabanowski are going to actually be swayed by the fact that this is a Michigan candidate or a woman candidate?
It would be difficult for them to oppose her. I'm certainly not saying it's impossible and that they may not, but it certainly gives us some leverage.
Did you have a John James angle on this?
No, I did not.
Okay, maybe, but somebody else I was reading about that. What do you think of Amy Barrett? She's a woman.
Right. She would be another good choice, but isn't she a D.C. circuit? That's not strategic for the midterm battleground.
No, you're right. It's not. But actually, I've seen some groups that I really like have been really, really high on Amy Barrett. Her pro-life stance in particular is rock solid. It's not an iffy. And I'm not saying Joan Larson is either. Don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to Joan Larson. I'm just, there's a lot of picks out there. I'm not going to make it. You're not going to make it. I doubt we're even going to influence it. So it's just like fantasy football league here,
Well, if it isn't Joan, I would prefer it to be Amy. We need that to counter the usual baloney. Republicans are sexist, false narrative. We hate to play identity politics, but if you don't play the game, you're surrendering a victory to the other side on it.
I understand that, but this Raymond Kethledge, man, he sounds like Sam Alito the second. Everybody talks about, Gorsuch 2.0, and I'm thinking that I want Alito Junior, you know what I mean, or Alito Part 2. What do you got, Al?
But wasn't he a Kennedy clerk? I worry if he's a closet Kennedy once he gets there.
Oh, not this guy. No, not Kethledge. But go ahead, Alex. You had something.
Well, I think the important part is at the end of the day, whoever we pick and we get past the Senate with, they should be a strict constitutionalist. I mean, obviously, the problem with our country today is judges trying to interpret law, and what they should be doing is interpreting law by the Constitution of the United States of America.
Yeah, they should be enforcing the. Well, it's not. They're not executives, but they
Yeah.
should be deciding whether that law fits the parameters of the Constitution. In which case, we'd have a lot less laws if they started doing that. Because
Amen.
But I want to get back to Kethledge for a second. I mean, this guy is like Sam Alito. He's a hunter. He's a fisherman. He's from Michigan. He's a strict constructionist. So that's my 2 cents. He is Michigan, so you might have half the Peters Stabenow sway because it's a Michigan vote. I don't know. So anything else?
No, but all 25 on the list made by the Federalist Society for Trump, I think, are probably good, solid picks. It's just that with this midterm election, I want us to be thinking beyond, a little out of the box and more strategically, short-term and long-term consequences to this.
What do you think is the biggest, how would we put this? What would be your most concern for a case that might be decided by the court going forward that this justice would be influential in?
Well, obviously, the big spiel is, and got the left freaked out the most, is Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, that's what has them all in a tizzy because Kennedy was a big pro-abortion guy. And there, of course, something would have to come up from one of the states for that to happen because Roe v. Wade was a ridiculous decision. It was not decided on the merits of legalization of murder. It was decided on a backdoor, bogus, false narrative of privacy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That there was a inherent right in the Constitution that was not enumerated, but it's a living document. It can grow. It can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't matter. You can change the rules as you go along if you're a Democrat.
You can.
Yeah.
I mean, under that dumb privacy notion, can I invite you over, Ed, and murder you in the privacy of my own home and it be legal? It's a privacy
Well,
issue.
it depends.
It
It depends
in my
on how you
home.
feel
That's
that day.
ridiculous.
It depends on what judge you get that day, I think.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking one of the big cases coming up.
Ed.
I'm thinking one of the big cases coming up is to revisit Chevron, which a lot of people are. It's under the radar for them, but Chevron, the energy company, had faced a ruling where the court said that it was okay for the administration, and by that I mean bureaucracies, to interpret the laws the way regulations the way they see fit, as opposed to the way they were really written or what the intent was. So it almost comes back to a originalist argument, but not necessarily on the Constitution, but on legislation that was written. So that if you said, and I forget exactly what the case in Chevron was about, but it was about a regulation, and then they said, well, we think that it's out of bounds for this agency to interpret this law. It's like the EPA and their creep, right? Keep creeping out with more and more regulations that are not embodied by law, but whatever they say they are, they are. And if we got this Chevron overturned, we'd be really putting a knife in the deep steak. What's that, Alex?
How about revisiting the 14th Amendment or the interpretation of the 14th Amendment on who is a legal
anchor
citizen?
Babies?
Right, and who isn't. If you think the left is going crazy now.
Yeah, I'm getting excited. Yes.
Well, the Janus case is
you brought
to be
that up.
revisited coming up, too, because the unions are not going to sit by. But the Supreme Court rightfully decided our constitutional right of freedom of association means we can associate or not, we cannot be forced. And the unions and the Democrats are, of course, always about force. And the other is campaign finance. I don't think they went far enough on Citizens United. Freedom of speech and property rights. My money is my property, and I should be able to give it to whomever I please in whatever amounts I please for whatever reason I please.
You know, Joe, I got to say, you must be a real crowd pleaser because nobody else in the audience is calling in because